¿Qué tal, alumnos? Hoy estudiamos el presente de los verbos AR. The information for this lesson can be found in your textbook on page 34 and page 35. So, as we mentioned, we're going to be studying the present tense of AR verbs. It's very important to know that in Spanish, an infinitive, un infinitivo, is the unconjugated or the unchanged form of a verb. In this course, the first verb that we studied was the verb ser. Ser is an infinitive. When we change our infinitive ser to reflect a particular person or group of persons, that is what we consider a conjugation. The conjugations of the verb ser are soy, eres, es, somos, sois, and son. Once again, those are just the conjugations of the verb ser. And those conjugations reflect the particular person to whom we are referring. Ser is our infinitive. So it's important to remember, in Spanish, all infinitives end in either AR, ER, or IR. AR, AR, ER, ER, or IR, IR. So, there are two parts to all Spanish infinitives. The first part is the stem. The second part is the ending. Our ending, of course, being the AR, ER, or IR. Once we take off the stem, once we take off the ending, the AR, ER, or IR, what's left over is what is considered our stem. In order to form the present tense of an AR verb, an infinitive that ends in AR, we must first drop the infinitive ending, which of course in this case would be our AR, and then we are going to add a personal ending to the stem. Now, in order to add the personal ending to the stem, we must first know what our personal endings are in the present tense. In the yo form, the I form, our personal ending will be o. In the tu form, our personal ending is as, as. In the third person singular, él, ella, usted, our personal ending is a. In the nosotros form, our personal ending is amos. In the vosotros form, our personal ending is ais. And make sure when you're using the vosotros form that you add an accent mark on the a. So we have ais, a con acento, y s. And finally, we have the third person plural, ellos, ellas, ustedes. In that form, our personal ending is an. So we have o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Once again, I am introducing the vosotros form to you so you know how to use it, but vosotros is used primarily in Spain. Therefore, using our textbook, you will not be tested on the vosotros form. So on your test, I don't want to see any vosotros. Okay. Using these personal endings, we can conjugate our AR verbs. The first AR verb that we are going to conjugate is the verb hablar. Hablar meaning to talk or to speak. So, following our rule, we are going to take off the AR ending, that infinitive ending, and we're going to add a personal ending. So for the yo form, the conjugation of the verb hablar would be hablo. In the tu form, our conjugation will be hablas. Él, ella, usted habla. Nosotros hablamos. Vosotros habláis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes hablan. Excelente. So now that we know how to form the present tense, it's very important that we know when to use the present tense. As you would imagine, the present tense is talking about basically what is going on right now, what is happening in the present. And so we might think of it in English. In Spanish, there are actually 4 instances, 4 reasons why we can use the present tense. We will use the present tense to express what people do in a general sense. For example, I'm a teacher. So since I am a teacher, in the general sense, I teach. The verb for to teach is enseñar. Therefore, if I wanted to say I teach, I will say enseño. We can also use the present tense when we want to express what people are doing in a particular instance. So, I'm teaching this lesson right now. I teach the lesson. I can say enseño la lección. So I'm expressing the fact I'm doing that right now in this particular instance. Enseño la lección. The third way we can use the present tense is when we want to refer to what persons do habitually. Something that they do out of habit. They do it frequently. I read very often. So even though read is not one of our AR verbs, we'll get into that later. But because I'm expressing the fact that this is something I do habitually, I do this frequently, I can say, I read. And finally, we can use the present tense when we want to express what persons intend to do at a later time. So as you see, since we're saying what persons intend to do at a later time, that's insinuating we're talking about something that hasn't happened yet. So you can imagine we can use the present tense when we want to refer to actions that are going to occur in the near future. So now that we know the 4 instances in which we can use the present tense, when we're talking about what persons do in a general sense, what they are doing in a particular instance, what they may do habitually, or what they intend to do at a later time or in the future, we can now review some common AR verbs, algunos verbos AR. So let's study these verbs. Estos verbos están en la página 35. These verbs, they're on page 35. So if we want to say to rest for an hour, we will say descansar por una hora. To listen to music, escuchar música. To study in the library, estudiar en la biblioteca. To arrive to class, llegar a la clase. To send letters, mandar cartas. To return home, regresar a casa. To take classes, tomar clases. In that same block, we also have to take tests or to take exams. Tomar exámenes. To work at night. Trabajar por la noche. To help. Ayudar. To dance. Bailar. To look for, or if we want to say to search for, we will say buscar. To walk, caminar. To sing, cantar. To buy, comprar. To answer, as in to answer a question. Or we can say to answer a phone. We will say contestar. To wish or to want is desear. To draw, dibujar. To teach, enseñar. To enter, entrar. To hope or to expect, esperar. Now, when we're saying to expect, we can also mean to expect something to happen or to be waiting for something to happen. Therefore, esperar can also mean to wait. So, esperar means to hope, to expect, or to wait. To call or to phone, llamar. To watch, mirar. To need, necesitar. To pay, pagar. To spend, such as to spend time, or to pass, we will say pasar. To practice, practicar. To ask, as in to ask a question, preguntar. To finish, terminar. To touch, or this can also mean to play an instrument, we will say tocar. To use, usar. To travel, viajar. To visit, visitar. All of the verbs that we just studied are regular AR verbs. That means that the way that we learn how to conjugate the verb hablar will be the same manner or the same method in which we would conjugate these verbs as well. So make sure you remember to conjugate AR verbs, you drop your infinitive ending, the AR, and then you add the personal ending, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Fantastico. So practice using these verbs. Remember, after we review them, I expect you to know them. So practice using them throughout the day. Think of some of the activities that you perform throughout the day, some of the things that you do in the present tense, and practice conjugating these verbs. And until next time, nos vemos.